Hello everyone, today we are going to start with the different kingdoms and we will be studying them one by other but in brief, later on in detail in the next chapters. So students, let us just start with kingdom Plantae, and these are the following characteristics. Kingdom Plantae includes all eukaryotic containing chlorophyll organisms, commonly called plants. Now students, we have the term eukaryotic, as you have already studied about this term in your previous classes. Eukaryotic means the organisms, or I would say the cells, which contains well-defined nucleus. Those organisms are called as eukaryotic organisms. Now students, the next one is a few members are partially heterotrophic or parasites, such as the insectivorous plants or parasites. So students, these are certain exceptions that we need to understand when we are talking about the kingdom Plantae. Major part of kingdom Plantae includes autotrophic organisms. That is, they can actually produce their own food. But there are certain exceptions, and these exceptions are the one which are partially heterotrophic. That is, they can feed upon other organisms. Themselves, they are not able to produce the food, or they are completely dependent on other organisms for food and shelter, called as parasites. Now students, the next one is bladderwort and Venus trap fly. These are the examples of insectivorous plants. And what is the example of parasite, students? It is cuscuta. You would have surely seen cuscuta nearby to your house, and if not, you should surely see it. Now students, the plant cells have an eukaryotic structure with prominent chloroplast and cell wall, mainly made of cellulose. The most essential thing is chloroplast. We cannot imagine the plant kingdom with the absence of chloroplast, because chloroplast is completely responsible for the process of photosynthesis, which we all know the importance of in case of plants. Now students, the next one is kingdom Animalia. This kingdom is characterized by heterotrophic eukaryotic organism. Now students, eukaryotic over here is similar to the eukaryotic in case of the kingdom Plantae, but what is the difference? The difference is that kingdom Plantae was having major autotrophic organisms, but here the organisms are heterotrophic in nature. That is, for example, we human beings depend on other organisms for our food requirements, and we are multicellular, and we also lack cell walls in our cells. Next one is they directly or indirectly depends on plants for food. Their mode of nutrition is holozoic. What is holozoic, students? That we take the food directly into our body, or we can say by ingestion of food. Next one is they follow up definite growth pattern, show elaborate sensory and neuromotor mechanism. As we know the reflex action, if we are touching something hot, we take back our hand at the instant. Why is it so? Because we feel hot, and our body mechanism is such that our nerves are able to combine with our mechanism, and that mechanism is the muscles and its activity. Now students, the next one. The most essential characteristic is the sexual reproduction. Now students, you would be wondering that sexual reproduction occurs in case of plants as well. But students, what is the difference? In case of animals, we have a process called as copulation or intercourse that makes the kingdom Animalia a bit different from kingdom Plantae. Now students, we should be knowing that once the copulation occurs, once the fertilization occurs, it is followed by the embryological development. Now students, let us just move to the next one. Now students, identify the structure. What is it? Can you name it? Let us just welcome this organism. This is virus. And which one? Tobacco mosaic virus. Now student, you should be knowing that all the viruses have a basic structure which is very much similar in all the viruses. For example, students, right now what is going on? The coronavirus. And we should be knowing the structure of all the viruses because the basic structure remains the same. So coronavirus would also be having this basic structure. So we have students in it RNA, which is represented by these red strands, and we have the leftover body part called as capsid. Moving ahead, students, this is what, students? This is bacteriophage. Now what is bacteriophage, students? That we will be studying later, but before that you should be knowing the structure of it. The bacteriophage has a head, the anterior most part. It has the collar, then it has sheath. Sheath basically, students, is nothing but the covering. The last part of it is called as tail fiber. So you would be knowing that these tail fibers would surely be used for the locomotion purposes. Now students, move on to the next one. Now we have viruses, viroids and lichens. We should be knowing the difference between these three terms. Let us just do it one by next one. Now students, the first one is the viruses are non-cellular organisms that are characterized by having an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. Now you need to understand, I'm saying outside the living cell. That is, whenever they are outside the living cell, they have inert crystalline structure. But the moment they infect a cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves by killing the host. Now, what is it? It is not by killing the host, but I would say by killing the host machinery. They kill the machinery of the host and they actually take over the machinery by themselves. For example, students, the coronavirus right now is doing the same thing. It is taking over our machinery to replicate. Now students, the name virus, that means poisonous fluid, was given by Pasteur D.J. Ivanovsky. You should be very much clear with the name because it is very important. We should be knowing the person who has discovered it. Now students, and who has actually defined it. So he has defined it as poisonous fluid. Now students, moving to the next one. W.M. Stanley showed that viruses could be crystallized, and crystals consist largely of proteins. They are inert outside their specific host cell. Viruses are obligate parasites, that is, they does not have any other option to live and to survive. They are going to be active only when they are inside the host body. In addition to proteins, viruses also contains genetic material. Now, which is that genetic material, students? You all must be knowing that what exactly is a genetic material. Genetic material is something which contains the information, and that information is transferred from generation to generation through this genetic material. For example, students, in viruses it can be RNA or DNA, ribose nucleic acid or deoxyribose nucleic acid respectively. No virus contains both RNA and DNA. So students, you should be very much clear with it that no virus contains both RNA and DNA. Please correct this term, students. In DNA, D should be capital. Now students, a virus is a nucleoprotein and the genetic material is infectious in nature, students. As we know, we are also going through the same problem. We are being infected by the coronavirus. Now, in general, viruses that infect plants have single-stranded RNA. So students, the viruses that infect the plant specifically, they have which kind of RNA? Single-stranded DNA. No, They have single-stranded RNA, students. It is very much important in this very perspective. Now students, viruses that infect animals have either single or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA. Here we will say that in animals it can be double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA. Bacterial viruses for bacteriophages. Now students, we got the term bacteriophages. What are bacteriophages? Viruses that infect the bacteria. So those viruses which infect the bacteria, those viruses are called as bacteriophages, are usually double-stranded DNA viruses. So they are double-stranded DNA viruses. Now students, the protein coat called capsid, we were talking about the capsid. It is made up of small subunits called as capsomers, and those capsomers are very essential, students, because these are the one which are responsible for the protection of the nucleic acid which is present inside these capsid bodies, or I would say the subunit capsomers. These capsomers are arranged in helical or polyhedral geometric form. So students, they have a form. The form can be helical or polyhedral in nature. Viruses cause disease like mumps, smallpox, herpes and influenza. We should be knowing about these diseases as well, students. So you need to understand the diseases. You need to go with them. Now students, you all must have heard about the term AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. In humans is also caused by a virus. So we should be wondering, which is that virus? It is HIV, which is human immunovirus. Now students, in AIDS there is a term called as syndrome. Syndrome basically is nothing but a combination of several diseases is termed as syndrome. Now students, in plants, the symptoms can be mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing and stunted growth. Now students, let us just make ourselves clear with the next three terms. The first one being viroids. Students, in 1971, T.O. Diener discovered a new infectious agent that was smaller than viruses and caused potato spindle tuber disease. It was found to be a free RNA. It lacked the protein code that is found in viruses, hence the name viroid. That is, without the protein code. The RNA of the viroid was of low molecular weight. So students, what is the difference between viruses and viroids? The difference is that in case of viroids, we does not have the protein code. And not just this, the RNA of viroid is also have low molecular weight. Now students, let us just move on to the next one, which is lichens. Lichens are symbiotic associations. Now students, what are symbiotic associations? These are the associations where both the peoples, or I would rather say both the organisms which live together, they have benefit upon each other. That is, both are beneficial for each other, and thus their association is very much productive in nature. That is, they are mutually useful association. It is not just this that only one organism is useful, both the organisms are mutually useful. For example, students, the association between algae and fungi. The algal component is known as phycobiont, students, whereas the fungal component called as mycobiont, which are autotrophic and heterotrophic respectively. Now they are very much complementary to each other. For example, students, algae prepare food for fungi and fungi provide shelter and absorb mineral nutrients and water for its partner. So such kind of combinations and associations are rarely we should appreciate, and we should appreciate the nature as well. So close is their association that if one saw a lichen in nature, one would never imagine they had two different organisms within them. Is it so, students? Yes. You should also look for the lichens around you, and if then it will be really very discovering, and you should be actually taking such kind of steps. Now students, lichens are very good pollution indicators. They do not grow in polluted areas. So students, if there is any polluted area, you will never find lichens over there. This is also something that is very much productive in nature. So thank you students. I hope you all would have been very much clear about all the kingdoms and these unique organisms, the viruses.